PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here. Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PR Connections Radio. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and this is going to be another great edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap here on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. And I will say, for everyone watching all around the world, this is going to be a fantastic show, and we have a lot of fantastic content to go over and discuss here on Vegas Hockey Hub. And I will say about this game, there's definitely some good back and forth and stuff that we can talk about here on Vegas Hockey Hub. And I will say, for starters, the first thing that we have to address is going to prconnectionsradio.com, checking out all the shows, all the content we have on the network. I will say also, for everyone watching all around the world, go to the PR Connections Radio YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. We upload every single show to PR Connections Radio, and that includes the dozen shows on the network as well. If you want to go to the Vegas Hockey Hub YouTube channel, if you want to like and share to all your friends all around the world, I would appreciate that as well. And if you want to go to all of our social medias, we do on Vegas Hockey Hub. We are everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Vegas Hockey Hub. We are on all social media platforms. And if you want to follow your host, I am on social media as well, right down here at Ian Rachiele 18. That's IANRACHIELE 18. So getting into the recap of this game, you had the Golden Knights, you have the Canucks, and this has definitely been a good back and forth matchup. Some people are trying to hopefully see Vegas overcome their recent losing streak that they have had as of late. Now, the one aspect that I do have to mention, something that has been brought up, is the Shea Theodore injury. Now, Shea Theodore, he was injured a couple of games ago, and unfortunately, he will be on long-term IR. He has been diagnosed with a long-term injury. He will be out for a while for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the positive is that Caden Korczak, the young defenseman out in Henderson, one of the top 10 prospects in Vegas' system, he will now be called up in his place. In fact, he starts in the same lineup spot as Shea, being alongside Braden McNabb. In net for your Vegas Golden Knights was Adin Hill. So Adin Hill being in net for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say, Adin Hill, he definitely has had a good winning streak. There's been some good momentum riding on Adin Hill, but something happened we're going to talk about later on the recap show. But to begin period one for your Vegas Golden Knights, now the Vegas Golden Knights, they actually had some good opportunities in the first period. As the Vancouver Canucks, they actually had some opportunities as well. And one compliment I have to give your Vegas Golden Knights. On the Vegas Golden Knights had a tripping penalty by Brett Howden. You had a hooking penalty on Mark Stone and a hooking penalty on Zach Whitecloud. Now, normally when a team has 3 penalties in one period, a power play goal is going to be given up at some point. But the penalty kill by Vegas has been strong majority of the year, and tonight's game shows it as well. As the Vegas Golden Knights did not allow a power play goal in any of the opportunities in the first period. And in fact, the Vegas Golden Knights would capitalize on their own momentum, as not even 5 minutes into period one, Ivan Barbashev with his 5th goal of the season, assisted by Jack Eichel and your captain Mark Stone, making it a 1-0 game for your Vegas Golden Knights. And, you know, there's been a lot of flack about the first line with Barbashev, Eichel, and Stone to begin the year. But I will say for Eichel and Stone, there has definitely been some good, it's been some good stuff happening with Barbashev and Eichel as of late. And Ivan Barbashev scoring his 5th goal of the season has definitely been good for your Vegas Golden Knights. And then later in the first period, Jack Eichel with goal number 9 on the year. And I will say for Jack Eichel, this has definitely been a good season for him. He has been an MVP of sorts for your Vegas Golden Knights, assisted by a guy that he assisted earlier in the game, Ivan Barbashev, and Nick Hague made it a 2-0 game for your Vegas Golden Knights to end period one. And unfortunately, Vegas did not capitalize on a Dakota Joshua penalty against Michael Amadio, but nonetheless, a 2-0 game for your Vegas Golden Knights to begin the end of period number one. And, I will say when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, there is some stuff that we can definitely talk about on that front. But also, we have to address what happened later in the game. So after the second period and a William Karlsson goal, his 11th of the season, he has been impressive so far this year. William Karlsson has really been one of the best players on Vegas all year long. Assisted by Alex Pietrangelo and Jack Eichel, put them up 3-0 over Vancouver. I'll say for your Vegas Golden Knights, outside of a Tyler Myers holding penalty, it was very penniless for your Vegas Golden Knights after the fiasco they had in the first period. Well, after the second period, Adin Hill had an injury. Now, we do not know, and we're going to have to get some more information for future shows, but Adin Hill left after the second period. Logan Thompson had to be put in the game for your Vegas Golden Knights. And, hopefully it's not long-term. We're hoping that Adin Hill can come back. Hopefully it was a short-term situation. He'll be out a couple of days at most. But yeah, Adin Hill, injury concern for him. And the reason why it's really a concern is because of who you have in your system. You have Hill, you have Thompson, but after that, you have Patera. I know you have Seville, you have some goalies in the AHL, but you really don't have any long-term solution if Hill comes down long-term. You're going to have maybe an AHL goalie being a backup to Thompson. But unfortunately for Vegas, this injury concern for Adin Hill could actually be a negative for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I'll say for Vegas and everything that's going on there, I hope that Adin Hill can come back in a short-term situation. We hope it's not long-term. But yeah, in the middle of this game, Adin Hill gets injured and Logan Thompson had to come in, and he actually picked up the win, only allowed one goal in this game. So for Logan Thompson, he finished out the game and got them to where they needed to be. Now, getting back into the last period of the game, not even half a minute into the third period, Brett Howden with his fourth goal of the season, assisted by Alex Pietrangelo and Michael Amadio. It would make it a 4-0 game for your Vegas Golden Knights. And this was really just a statement win for Vegas. This really was. This was a statement when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, because this was a team that Vancouver has been one of the best records in all of hockey. After all, Vancouver is 15-8-1 on the year. Vegas is 15-5-4. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, this really was a statement win. Now, a couple of minutes left in the game. Andrei Kuzmenko had his fourth goal of the season, assisted by Brock Besser and JT Miller. But overall, your Vegas Golden Knights picked up the win. And I will say, when it comes to Vegas, this has definitely been a key win for them, a good win for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I will say, player of the game, that has to go to Alex Pietrangelo. Alex Pietrangelo had a fantastic night here against Vancouver. He had a 2-assist night. He had a very set-up assist on the Brett Howden goal, and then with William Karlsson picked up an assist as well. Thatcher Demko, he had 40 saves on the night for Vancouver. He's somebody I probably would mention as someone that is good for Vancouver. But yeah, Alex Pietrangelo did well. Jack Eichel did well. Before he got hurt, Adin Hill was having a shutout, having a fantastic night in net. And I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights, this recent stretch has been alarming for Vegas. This recent stretch for Vegas kind of shows, the problems that Vegas has had. So Vegas has had a back-to-back losses. Losing to Arizona, getting shut out by Arizona, and then losing to Calgary and then Edmonton. So really, the Vegas Golden Knights needed this win. This is an absolute no-brainer. Vegas needed to rebound from having multiple losses back to back to back, and they had to pick up a win against Vancouver. So I'll say for Vegas, what's coming up next for your team, they have a couple of games that we definitely need to talk about in the future. Now, Washington and St. Louis, back-to-back home games, that will be in the upcoming week. You also have the road trip of St. Louis and Dallas before they kick it back home for a 4-game road homestand in the middle of December. So I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights, they definitely have a good stuff to talk about in December. And for your Vegas Golden Knights, 15-5-4 on the year. They still have one of the best records in hockey despite a recent stretch of losses. And, since it's towards the end of November, we're going to do something a little bit different here on Vegas Hockey Hub. We did something similar when we did the end of the show in October. And what we're going to do is kind of go back and look at what happened in November with your Vegas Golden Knights, because this is definitely something that we do at the end of every month. So November 2nd, the Winnipeg Jets came into T-Mobile Arena, and the Vegas Golden Knights defeated Winnipeg 5-2. And this is when Vegas was on that run of not having a regulation loss, and they went 10-0-1. So when it comes to Winnipeg, I mean, them being 5-2, this was a good victory for Vegas. I was at the game personally, and this was a situation where Vegas just really took advantage of the weaknesses of Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a really good, gritty team. They have a lot of heart. They've got a good fight in them in Vancouver, and they really did go up against Winnipeg just like they did in Vancouver and beat the Vancouver Canucks and Winnipeg Jets like they did on November 2nd. So for the Winnipeg Jets, November 2nd, beat them at T-Mobile Arena 5-2. And then the Colorado Avalanche was 7-0. They had a shutout against Colorado on November 4th. I was at that game as well, and so many Colorado fans were leaving by the second period. It brought a smile to my face seeing how many Colorado fans were just leaving the place at T-Mobile Arena. And the Vegas Golden Knights just dominated. I mean, Aiden Hill had a shutout. You also had two guys who had multiple point nights for your Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, if you really stop and analyze that 7-0 game, Mark Stone had 4 points on the day. Jack Eichel had a 2-goal night. I mean, this was a dominating performance, probably the best performance Vegas has had all year long. And after that game, they had the back-to-back road trip in California, November 5th against Anaheim. In this game, unfortunately, they lost 4-2, but what made it worse is that Vegas was up 2-0 as to start the third period, and they lost 4-2. And it was really just the defense just fell apart. Defense just did not do what they needed to do. They did not capitalize on what was needed to be done. But yeah, that was the first loss in November. So after having that 7-0 win against Colorado, blowing a 2-0 lead was unfortunate. And then the Los Angeles Kings playing at home at T-Mobile Arena and them losing 4-1 against the LA Kings, who at that point was perfect on the road. I believe they were about 6-0 on the road at that point. And loss also hurt as well. The LA Kings really just dominated from start to finish in that game. And I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights, kind of having that 2-2 start to begin November, the belief was that they were going to recover. The belief was that your Vegas Golden Knights have an early stretch, but they're going to recover by the end of November. And when they had the San Jose Sharks come to Vegas on November 10th, and they shut out San Jose, they shut out a bitter rival in San Jose, 5-0. Aiden Hill, once again, had a shutout in net. Aiden Hill, when he is in the net, is one of the best goalies in hockey. You had a guy like Alec Martinez with a 2-goal night as a defenseman. Like, this was one of the best performances as well that Vegas had. And then you started the road trip. Okay, Vegas had a 5-game road trip. We talked about it. The Vegas Golden Knights were going to have an 8-game road trip in 9 games in November. And November 14th, they get shut out in Washington. Unfortunately, one of the most sloppy games Vegas has had. It wasn't really Logan Thompson's fault. The defense just did not do what they needed to do. And yeah, that game between Washington and Vegas just was really unfortunate when you really stop and analyze it. Because unlike some other games that happened, you could really say that goaltending was not at fault in Washington to really start out that road trip. And then the next game, November 16th, the Vegas Golden Knights beat Montreal 6-5 in a powerhouse, in a huge hyper offense type of situation. Shea Theodore had a 4-point Vegas Golden Knights. You also had some good back and forth situations happening. Obviously, the Formula One Grand Prix in Las Vegas was happening as well during that same time. So, fortunately, Vegas was on the road in Montreal during the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But let's get back to what we were really talking about here. You had the Vegas Golden Knights in Montreal, and they were trading back the lead left, right, and center in that game. That was one of the best and entertaining games you've seen all year long. 2 days later, in fact, you had the back-to-back road trip in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia won 4-3 in overtime. And the Vegas Golden Knights, unfortunately, the glaring moment in that game was that Jack Eichel gave up the puck in Vegas' zone, and Philadelphia scored in overtime to win that game. I mean, there was another situation where Vegas realistically should have won that game. Vegas was the better team for majority of the game, but they lost it in overtime thanks to a mistake that was done on the back end. Then you had November 19th, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They shut out the Vegas Golden Knights. This actually was very memorable because Riley Smith, the former Vegas Golden Knight, coming down, facing the Vegas Golden Knights for the first time since being traded from Vegas. And of course, all the social media was talking about it. That's all social media wanted to do. They wanted to focus on Riley Smith, the Misfits being back together. We saw pictures of them, pregame. But the game itself was underwhelming. Really not much happened in that game that I could talk about in great detail, except for, like I said, the Riley Smith situation. Then in Dallas, a few days later, it was a defensive-minded performance. You had the fan behind Pete DeBoer was shoving things up his nose. That was the meme during that Dallas game. And most importantly, you had a 2-1 overtime win against Dallas in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. And that was just a really good situation for your Vegas Golden Knights. And I'll say for Vegas, this is definitely something that really should have been positive for them. Going up against Dallas, going up against a Western Conference Final opponent from the year before and beating in Dallas. And then they came back home around Thanksgiving. They lose to Arizona in a shutout. Connor Ingram looked like Patrick Waugh. I mean, it was insane how Patrick Waugh, Connor Ingram looked. He like a Vezina Trophy winner against Vegas. He just shut out Vegas 2-0. He looked like the backup in Nashville that Arizona took to make a starting goaltender. That's what Connor Ingram looked like. And then the last 2 games that you have had, Calgary lost 2-1 in overtime, and then Edmonton lost in a shootout 5-4. And now the most recent game that we're talking about, the Vancouver Canucks winning 4-1. And we'll definitely see what happens on Saturday. Of course, they got Washington, D.C. here at T-Mobile Arena. And we'll see how they do against Washington. But I'll say for your Vegas Golden Knights, this is going to be an interesting situation. Going to be a really interesting scenario to really see how Vegas looks the next couple of games. And depending on the situation with Adin Hill, we'll find out more about it in the next couple of days. But depending on how that goes, we will see how your Vegas Golden Knights kind of perform under the certain pressure. How are they going to perform when the Vegas Golden Knights have to play with just one goalie for a while? So I will say for your Vegas Golden Knights, this was the recap show of the Vancouver Canucks and Vegas Golden Knights game. Vegas Golden Knights picked up a victory 4-1 against Vancouver. And until next time, we'll do that recap show on Sunday. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Continue watching hockey. Go support junior hockey. And go Knights, go.